Hey, let me tell you an experience I had with esketamine and whatever they called TMS. I don't know what TMS stands for, but basically, TMS is used to treat depression. They hit some points in your brain, I think the prefrontal cortex, whatever they said, and the aim is to, like, after God knows how many sessions, I think like 36, they said, you're apparently going to have way less depression. Something statistics about 65% have, you know, a lot of improvements in depression. And so I did about 3 treatments of that. And then I also had 2 treatments of esketamine. And the proper terminology or the brand they called it was called Spravato. Yeah, that's what it was. Alright, so quick backstory about why I decided to do this. So, when I was growing up, I had extreme social anxiety, and that was because I never fit in school, and people bullied me for being Asian, and it was from everywhere. Everyone, everywhere. It was from blacks, whites, Hispanics, and growing up in New York City back then, in the early 90s to 2000s, racism was prevalent. And it was from everybody. It was like everybody free for all. It was a bloodbath, metaphorically speaking. So that plus also family issues, I had depression, and largely when I was in my mid to early 30s, I got rid of a lot of it. I got a lot of negativity just out of my system, but it still haunts me to this day a little bit. So I decided to just nip it in the bud and get back into mental health, therapy and medication management. And I decided to go with this facility that provided alternative treatments to the traditional medication management, and it was all above board legal. And there are 2 things that they offered: TMS, which is the electroshock therapy that I was telling you about, and then it was also Spravato, which is like the brand name for esketamine, basically ketamine, and it was the nasal spray version of it. So I want to tell you a little bit about my experience with both of them, and do I recommend it or do I not? So my TMS experience, there's not much to say. They put this contraption on my temple, and then they started electroshocking me. And it wasn't like the videos or films. It wasn't like a huge electroshock. It was just mini shocks. But it was placed on my head such that it would always like trigger my eyeballs. And it was kind of painful a little bit at times, but it was tolerable. And I don't think it had much of an impact. I know they said that it takes like 36 treatments to do something like that before you ever see potential, progress on depression. And then they said if it cures depression or if it helps out with depression, it might also help out with anxiety. All it seemed like to me was experimental. It wasn't, yeah, they had some backings to it. They had some scientific findings or research, but the way that it was done to me, it felt experimental. It was like, okay, we're the first facility to, or like we're one of the facilities in this New York metro area that actually provides this instead of the standard care. And we provide this because the traditional medication management for depression isn't working in our experience, so we wanted to give an alternative solution. But for TMS, I don't think I recommend it, to be honest. You're actually shocking your head and you're creating micro traumas. Yeah, I just don't recommend it, in my personal opinion. I'm not a doctor. Now, the thing that everybody was waiting for, the Spravato, and my experience on it. The first Spravato treatment I had was quite literally horrible. And I think they gave me 2 dosages, and that was, per standard protocol. But I think she was inexperienced. She gave me two back to back. Like, she didn't wait for symptoms to disappear, stuff like that. Like, the first treatment, you know, it was fine, right? It was starting to kick in. And the one thing that I didn't do was when they offered me nausea medication, I just, I declined it. And later on, I found that I needed it because when you get into the K hole, you can get nauseous. So what happened was the lady that was treating me, she offered me snacks. She offered me this, you know, ranch chips and this seltzer water, and everything was fine. And then, like 5 minutes after the first dosage, she gave me the second dosage, and then that was when it went crazy. So then I went into a tailspin. I was like kind of getting dizzier and dizzier, but I was conscious of it, and I made sure that while I was in the K hole, I was thinking positive thoughts about my career and my future and like what I wanted out of my life. And so I wanted to manifest these positive thoughts, and the reasoning behind why I did that was because I wanted to just tap into my subconscious. I'm not sure if it was going to work, but I wanted to do it. So while I was stuck in that trip, that K hole, I was just constantly reciting that mantra to myself. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And then it went to the apex of the K hole. I was just super dizzy, and then I was about to barf immediately, so I just barfed into the ranch chip bag. And I think what happened was it just heightened my awareness. Like, I just started tasting the saltiness of the ranch, and then the orange seltzer water. And then also, because the nasal spray kind of went into the back of my throat, it was mixed in with the ranch and the seltzer, and I just had to puke. But let me tell you what happened afterwards, maybe the first week or two after that first treatment. So after that, I felt so groggy, and I couldn't function for 4 hours, the rest of the day basically. So I just went back home and just rested. And I was so drowsy and so still semi-nauseated for the rest of that day, so I just slept it off. And then the precipitating days after that, I felt kind of like a zombie, but a high functioning zombie. So I was very productive. I didn't have the highs and lows that depression brought me, but I was in like the state of zen, or like zombie zen, if that makes kind of sense. And it was kind of good because when I did those mantras when I was stuck in that K hole, I think it did something to my subconscious. It allowed me to just refocus on that mantra again in daily life, and I just started redoing the things that made me happy, and I felt like I was progressing a little bit. And I didn't know if it was like temporal or it was like temporary. So, but while I was experiencing it, I felt kind of good. Felt pretty good being kind of normal. So I waited about 2 weeks before my second treatment of Spravato. Initially, I thought I was going to be done with the first one, but I wanted to just see if I needed to do the second one. If it was temporary, I wanted to keep that temporary high, maintain it. So I just wanted to do a second one to see how I feel. And if it was good, I'll keep on doing the treatments. If it was bad, I was just going to stop it after the second one. And when I asked my friends on Twitter their experience on it, or just my status on my update on it, how I just tried esketamine legally, a few of my friends were like, I don't recommend it at all, because I had my friends try that and they got stuck in the K-hole and a lot of bad things happened. So I took that into consideration, but I just decided, okay, maybe this will be my last try. So I just still scheduled the appointment and I went for my second appointment. My second appointment was much better than my first one because this time this lady knew what she was doing and she was very cognizant of my first experience, how I barfed and how I told them, nah, it was a terrible experience. So this time she gave me the first dosage and then she especially said, hey, I'm going to wait 15 minutes and then let's give you your second dosage. Or I think she also waited 30 minutes, something like that. And that was significantly better because remember the first time the first lady only waited 5 minutes before the second dosage. This time this lady gave me 30 minutes and then that allowed me to seamlessly transition into the second dosage without the nausea. And this time I took the nausea medication, so that helped out significantly. And like last time, I just focused on my mantra. I focused internally on my weaknesses, but I just specifically focused on my strengths this time, and my rationale was the same. I just wanted to tap into my subconscious and reinforce positivity. And so that's what I did. And this was non-eventful compared to the first one, but I felt like it was still very good. It was like maintenance kind of. And I think this is basically the whole experience behind this kind of therapy. They said it's a lot of, therapy sessions until you see results, and I think part of it is because of maintenance and like just to build on the first therapy session, and then the second one builds on the third builds on the second one, etc., etc. So I think this time it was almost like maintenance. It was like weightlifting basically. Like the more that you lift and you do it on a cycle, you do it on a good regimen, the more that you will get results slowly over time. It's not going to be a quick fix. It's going to be slow. That's how muscles develop, right? Just micro traumas, and then you build scar tissue over those, and then your muscle builds and builds and builds, and eventually that's how you get the volume or hypertrophy. So that's what I felt like, but I also felt like this was an expensive treatment. It was like an expensive drug almost. It is a drug, right? Spravato, esketamine. So I felt like it just gave me like a nominal benefit on top of what I was already doing. It was almost like a luxury thing. It was like a Chanel handbag when I could still have the same use case with a Walmart handbag, you know what I mean? So it was like that, and to top it off, it's like a time investment. Like you have to wait 2 hours before you're set to leave. Like you have to do the Spravato, wait 2 hours until you're released because of the drowsiness and all that. And it's like, so with that in mind, I decided that was going to be my last one. And so far, I think from those experiences, it helped kickstart me back into being normal. So I think in a way it did help, especially this tapping into the subconscious type of thing. And overall, do I recommend it? Not really, but if you have time, I would recommend maybe 1 or 2 sessions. But again, I'm not a doctor, and it does seem awfully kind of dangerous. I don't know. Even though it's legal, it's kind of dangerous.